Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. Thanks for coming back to my channel and subscribing and paying attention to what we share here. And I want to talk to you guys. I decided I should actually put up a little video about some of the things that are going on in the nuclear industry, because I think most of us have heard last week that, who was it? What's that guy up in Seattle? He wrote an article about how we need nuclear. Well, you know, the whole nuclear industry, Dave Parrish is actually completely right. The whole nuclear industry is like collapsing around itself. And this is not just my opinion. Let's just like this is why I thought I would do this video, because for most of you who have not been really understand these videos that I put out with Dr. Helen Caldicott, you know, my readings that I put out. I'm almost done with that book, by the way. And I post those up on Spreaker. So they come out on Spreaker and then they post automatically to YouTube. And I just recently opened up a channel for Dave Parrish's work because I think his weekly videos are super important. I'm going to start backlogging them on and posting them back up also from the backlog, because there's a lot of good information going backwards. We'll see how that goes. That's a project in my head that I think what I'm going to do is every time I post up a video, I'll post up an old backlog. And that way we'll get, they're only like 8 or 9 minutes. It's not that hard. It feels funny to be making a video again. I haven't done it in a super long time. I turned the camera on the computer onto nighttime light so that it's not a huge reflection to the camera. So I think that works pretty good. Looks funny to me. You guys look orange, or I look orange to myself, but I don't think that's how it's going to come out. So I'm going with it. But let me get to these articles, because there was an article here. Let me see. Oops, I got to go to screen share. Hold on. I mean, come on, Mr. Screen Share. Let's see if they're going to do that to everybody. Screen share. There we go. Application window. There we are. It's kind of slow. I don't know what's going on with my computer. The old NSA, or maybe it's the nighttime screen or something. Oh, do I have to choose one or more? Oh, okay, sorry about that. So here we go. Okay, so I found all these different articles. Let me get to the one about Jascko, because I thought that was a pretty interesting article. Jeez, man. Here we go. Deference to the industry trumps nuclear safety in the U.S., warns a controversial former regulator. What made him controversial? Listen, that is a very interesting statement. Let me make sure that I'm there. Yes, we are. Controversial former regulator. Controversial. You know why he was controversial? Because he wanted to tell the truth. Okay, less than a year after the Fukushima nuclear accident in Japan, physicist George B. Jascko tried to break the first commandment in the nuclear regulation. Thou shalt not deny a license to operate a reactor. Do you get that? The first commandment. I wonder what the second commandment is. We should write him and ask him. As chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, he knew that the tradition was to encourage doomed applications to be withdrawn. But when one company refused, Jascko dug in his heels and opposed the license. It turned out to be a futile gesture that the other commissioners opposed, but it was one of many examples, he contends, of the weaknesses of the nation's top nuclear regulatory body and an exemplar of its obeisance to the nuclear power industry. Confessions of a Rogue Nuclear Regulator is one part engrossing memoir and another part seething diatribe, depicting a government agency that routinely caves to industry pressure. The book cannot help but also feel like the rationalization of Jascko's own actions during the conflict-ridden tenure as chairman, a position offered to him in 2009 by President Barack Obama. Jascko first came to the commission in 2005 after working for the Nevada Senator Harry Reid, fighting the project to store the nation's high-level radioactive waste at Yucca Mountain. He had a notoriously abrasive personality, and that did not change while at the NRC. Abrasive. Yucca Mountain set the tone for Jascko's tenure, and his autocratic leadership style alienated Republicans and Democrats alike. When he terminated a licensing review for the storage project, the other commissioners interpreted it as an illegal abuse of authority. The ensuing political fracas convinced Jascko that the nuclear industry used the NRC as a tool for promoting rather than regulating nuclear power. He believes that a nation repository for radioactive waste puts too much responsibility on the taxpayer. You think? He believes that the national repository for radioactive waste puts too much responsibility on the taxpayer. No other industry is able to complain so loudly that someone has failed to take care of its waste, he laments. The answer is to stop producing nuclear waste, argues Jascko, and indeed stop producing nuclear power at all. He wishes that as chairman that he'd had the courage to say this, but my courage had its limits. This is when the F-bomb starts falling out of my mouth. Okay, let's keep going. Most of Jascko's short book hammers on the theme that nuclear lobbyists hold sway over the would-be regulators. What's that? Most of Jascko's short book. That's nice. So they tell us it's a short book. Hammers on the theme that new industry lobbyists hold sway over the would-be regulators. You think? He highlights the long-standing concept of, quote, enforcement discretion, unquote, and skewers it as one of the nuclear regulation's greatest oxymorons. So an oxymoron is something that is the opposite of what they say it is. So for those of you that, rather than demand safety compliance, the NRC historically has allowed nuclear plants to develop alternative approaches, and has granted exceptions and exemptions. Recounting an episode in which he tried to abolish enforcement discretion in fire safety, Jascko writes, "What happened over the next several weeks was more brutal than Roman imperial succession. The political infighting was particularly intense after the Fukushima 2011 disaster. Jascko visited Japan and grew impatient with the litany of guarantees from industry about American nuclear facilities. He tried to insist on new requirements to mitigate accidents triggered by natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, and tsunamis. One internal NRC report drafted after Fukushima criticized the practice of relying on voluntary industry initiatives to address the safety concerns. Jascko's descriptions of other commissioners' attempts to quash or edit the report provide a disturbing glimpse of the dynamic of trust and betrayal within the industry. Confessions has come across as a story of one man and his loyal staff against a whole industry and its political toadies. Jascko portrays himself as a naive scientist pushing hard for progressive reforms amid a corrupt bureaucracy. His critics might not be persuaded. Towards the end of his tenure, Jascko's fellow commissioners logged a formal complaint against him, including accusations of mistreatment of women in the workplace. He survived the coup, his term, but ultimately resigned in 2012 at the request of his old mentor, Harry Reid, who wanted to use his position as a political bargaining chip. That fucker. Wow. Although Jascko's account will become standard reading as an anti-nuclear book, His reasons have more to do with regulation than nuclear industry per se. Jascko sees two paths ahead. One has a sustainable future with nuclear reactors that include widespread recognition that accidents will happen and a greater commitment to safety. The other path is the one he witnessed as NRC chairman, featuring waning public trust in a secretive, uncooperative industry that regards safety regulations as unfair and cumbersome. The problem that plagued the old Atomic Energy Commission, that the promoters and regulators are too cozy with each other, is clearly alive and well. Jascko describes the relationship as a corrupt, toxic environment. It may be a hard warning to hear, but it comes from one who had a fuller view of the nuclear regulatory landscape than most. Let's take a quick look at who the author was. School of History and Religion, Oregon State University. Wow, you know what's really amazing about this? Because the Oregon State University is where Kathleen, that's where the little mini modular nuclear reactors were invented, right there. What's her name? Jacob. Oh, it's a man. Jacob Darwin Hambin. It's funny that he's considered a controversial former regulator because he wanted to make the regulations better. Wow. What are the comments? Let's look at the comments. That's always kind of fun. Absolutely incorrect. Having worked in the industry for years as a supplier of safety equipment, I can attest that the NRC, if anything, is an overkill. They are a typical government bureaucrat. Jascko is a politician with an agenda. Ooh, that's a good attack on him. The power industry has an intense safety culture. The three most publicized accidents actually have nothing to do with each other. You know what's really interesting? It has an intense safety culture, but it's never been empirically tested. I have a study to that. Go look on my YouTube channel, Mr. Wrecking Ball. Fuck off, asshole. I really hate these fucking brainwashed people. Like, honestly, they just drive me crazy. So what else are we going to talk about? Look at this. As we're talking about Mr. Safety Regulations, look, this is an article about SCANA deliberately misled regulators overseeing nuclear projects. South Carolina PCSC concludes. So let's blah, 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 blah. Let's get down to here, and this is where it really talks about it. Somewhere around here. Here it is. The Securities and Exchange Commission in 2017 launched an investigation following allegations in a shareholder class action lawsuit that SCANA executives made false and misleading statements on the Summer project. A 2015 analysis of the project by construction giant Bechtel concluded that the project timeline was too ambitious and the costs were skyrocketing. But those warnings were removed from the final version presented to the state officials. Lucas's office did not respond to requests for comment on PSC's decision, but his filing with the commission was made in support of a petition by ORS and a specific ruling of SCANA's imprudence. So this is the safety culture model. There you go. Imprudent. I guess they're calling it imprudent. What's this one talking about? After the shutdown of Oyster Creek, they're talking about, Oyster Creek, the hard part, cleaning up 5 days of radioactive waste. It's outrageous. Let's go cut right to the chase. This is blah, blah, blah. You guys can look at this here. It's the New Jersey Monthly in the January issue. njmonthly.com. Every single nuclear facility has issues. That is just the way it is. What's in it for Holtec? Yeah, billions of dollars. That's what's into it. sounding the alarm. Paul Gunter, longtime environmental activist, policy analyst, and nuclear reactor watchdog for the advocacy group Beyond Nuclear, has been following activities at Oyster Creek for decades. He is calling for a thorough inspection of the plant's GE Mark I reactor before it's disposed of, citing its well-documented design flaws and long history of modification and retrofits. The reactor came under intense international scrutiny in 2011 after the three of the same reactors melted down at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Japan. Look at this statement. Holtec's decommissioning plan is like burying a body without an autopsy, says Gunter. Yeah. Well, they're trying to bury the body, sir, without an autopsy. You think they want to know? Why do you think they don't tell us? Why do you think our food is not regulated? They're not going to tell us. More. Regulators, listen to this. Look at that. Reactors to allow Seabrook nuke plant to run through 2050 because who gives a crap? We're not going to be alive by then or what? Seabrook power plant is expected to get approval to continue operating through 2050 by the end of this month after regulators finished determining the facility was safe to remain open. Wow. That is so outrageous. The plant is currently licensed to run through 2030. So let's just let it keep going. Who knows? This is outrageous. He says any party could appeal the judge's ruling to the NRC's presidentially appointed leadership and to a federal court. Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, here's another one. It's this one. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This was really good. Russia. Can Russia take over the world with this weapon? You know, this big, gigantic tsunami creating status 6 nuclear torpedo. This is it. They say that it could create like a 200, it's a 200 megabomb on board, but it would create a big, gigantic tsunami, right? So then there was a link inside and it said, these are the areas that are likely United States nuke targets where all these bases are. We knew this because this is where they keep, this is up here in Seattle where they keep all of the submarines, which are all nuclear submarines, by the way. The colors, what did they say? Yeah, nuclear storage depots. That's over here. And, oh man, we're going to have to turn the light on. Let me see if I can turn the light on because I can't see the difference in the colors. I think you guys can see it because it doesn't change the light on the filming. Let me go back. Sorry, you guys are seeing all of this. There we go. Okay. So see these different colors. Command and control targets, nuclear storage depots, those are all up here. Nuclear storage depot. Isn't that same color? Nuclear storage depot, that's this. God dang, it doesn't help me that I'm a little bit of a colorblind, but I think that's this color. Subs and planes, oh my gosh. Here's the Pentagon, command control targets, NORAD. Bing, bong, bing. The triad of NORAD, right? Bing, dong, bing. Ding, dong, bing. And in between, you get this. What's Whiteman's Air Force Base? That looks like it's blue. Subs and planes. Big, gigantic plane thing. Nuclear storage depot. And all along the way, nuclear power plants. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And if not nuclear, and then let's just combine all the fracking. Bloom, 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 bloom. All the fracking. Bloom, 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 bloom. This whole place is nothing but one big, gigantic nuclear rotten. What this country has done by harming it with nuclear waste is just beyond comprehension. It is a crime against humanity, man. Sheesh. So this is why I don't come to you guys anymore. Because this is what I say. Stop going nuclear. Nuclear power is too dangerous to use as an energy source. Take it from the guy who chaired the Nuclear Commission under Obama. This is the interview with this guy, Mike Pesca. And he's right. It is actually way too... That's what John Goffman said in the very beginning. For goodness sakes, it's completely outrageous. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me go back to this. Hi, you guys. Let me get this turned off again. A good light so I could see. There we are. Now it won't reflect in the... There we are. I kind of lose track when I do these videos of how long these videos are. So if this ends up being too long, I'm actually still recording it live on the Google Plus venue, you know, the live events through the Creator Studio, because I can't figure out the live streaming. And I think live streaming actually would require another person or something, or I don't know. I don't think I really want to do that. I can't quite figure it out. I've had a few people, when I did a little bit of live streaming, there were some like weird people, and it's just too distracting. Because people just come into live streams just to poke their heads in to say, hey. So this is all grim information, but you know, this book by Jascko is pretty hilarious. I think it's like, I'm glad he's coming out. Like, this is an interesting book that it's coming out right as Trader Trump is unveiling. You know, what's funny is that they brought in like the most despicable character to roll out the Star Wars project. And that's what it's really all about. And they're going to call it national security. And he's going to roll out the emergency, like this whole thing. It's actually all, you know, they actually can't have democracy in order to run out the vision for 2020. It has to be a totalitarian state, because humans we're not going to put up with it. So it's really bizarre to be living through this time. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy our lives, and it just means that we have to be vigilant about our health. And here's another little trick that I've recently learned about that actually does make you feel really great. Every morning with apple cider vinegar, you take, it's a little recipe, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, the juice of 1 lemon, and zest the lemon and then juice it. And a teaspoon of cinnamon, and between a teaspoon to a tablespoon of honey, depending on your amount of flavor. The article said that you need the honey because it interacts with the apple cider vinegar. So you need some honey. They recommended up to a tablespoon, I mean. So you can, somewhere in between that. And then you just mix it in a glass of water and drink it. And it's, it helps cleanse everything. And it actually is really a great little, it's, you know, all of these things that we can take, like high doses of vitamin C, apple cider vinegar, dandelion root powder, drink dandelion root tea, eat ginger, eat garlic, stay off of sugar. All these things, all that they really do is help our bodies get rid of the heavy metals that are coming into our bodies very heavily right now. And that's a large part of what makes us sick, is the heavy metals. In fact, Parkinson's, people that get Parkinson's, they're just got massive heavy metals in their system. So if they were to detox, they'd end up, you know, feeling a whole lot better, or so they say. But actually, it's true. They have lots of studies with that. And in our country, we just watch people deteriorate, right? In the United States, we give you pills, and their doctors are not even trained on how to help you stay well. But there's many things we can do ourselves to basically stay as healthy as we can, living in a contaminated planet. So anyways, you guys, thanks for coming to my channel. I hit 400. Woohoo! So now I have 400 subscribers. I'm super stoked about that. I think the next goal is 1,000. That's what I want to get, is 1,000 subscribers. And I'm going to be, next couple of videos in the next week, I'm going to roll out my Etsy page. It's completely unrelated to nuclear. It's a completely different idea, but I'm going to do a little video about that. And so I'm going to be coming back to YouTube. I'm probably going to put out 1 or 2 videos a week, not every single day, but I'm going to kind of keep track and post about all this stuff and kind of give us little hinters on how to stay well. And then I'm going to keep posting my radio show, which I do once a week. And I'll be posting Libby Halevi's show and Dave Paris's show. So talk to you guys later, man. Put your courage feet on. And we live in an exciting time, don't we? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.